All right, let's talk about the thing nobody ever says out loud. Because on the surface, Meghan Markle's life still looks like a glossy, high-definition fairy tale. Designer clothes that somehow always fit perfectly, private flights that just appear, sun-soaked getaways, that calm, practiced smile that says, "Don't worry, everything is exactly where it should be." Montecito still gleams, the wardrobe still rotates, the image still holds. But here's the question that keeps popping up in quieter rooms, away from comment sections and press releases. How? How does a lifestyle like that keep rolling when the public money story doesn't add up? Stick with me, because once you follow the timeline, not the headlines, things get interesting. Now, before anyone starts typing furiously, yes, Meghan had big deals. Netflix, Spotify, speaking gigs, brand buzz, all of that. We all saw the headlines, we all heard the numbers. But here's the part the headlines don't like to revisit. Those deals slowed. Some ended. Some went very, very quiet. Spotify walked. Netflix stopped shouting. Projects fizzled instead of exploding. Endorsements that were teased never really landed, or landed briefly and disappeared like a soft launch nobody noticed. And yet, nothing changed. No downsizing, no sudden keeping it low-key era, no lifestyle pivot. That's where people started whispering about something they call continuity funding. It's a polite phrase, almost elegant, sounds harmless. But what it really means is this: someone else keeps the lights on, quietly, strategically, without ever putting their name on a check the public can see. Not out of kindness, not out of loyalty, out of value. And that's where this stops being a fairy tale and starts looking like a strategy. Because when you strip away the Duchess title, the royal drama, the documentaries, what you're left with isn't royalty, it's resourcefulness. Meghan didn't marry into a billionaire vault, and that realization came faster than most people realize. When she entered royal life, there was an assumption, maybe even an expectation, that wealth would be endless. Castles, jewels, secret accounts, gold-plated freedom. That's the image people have of royalty, especially from the outside. But here's the reality. Prince Harry wasn't palace rich. Comfortable, yes. Diana's inheritance mattered. Military income helped. But the estates, the art, the palaces? Not his. Those belonged to the institution, not the individual. And insiders say Meghan learned that lesson quickly. The golden ticket wasn't a credit card. It was a rule book, and it came with limits, lots of them. For someone used to curating her own image, choosing her own moves, that was a shock. Royal life isn't flexible. It's ceremonial, controlled, slow, and most importantly, it doesn't let you freelance your identity. You don't monetize it, you don't pivot it, you don't turn it into a brand. And Meghan has never been someone who thrives in the background. That's when the fairy tale cracked. Because once she realized the crown didn't come with financial independence, the mindset shifted. Not consciously, maybe not even immediately, but it shifted. This wasn't going to be about fitting into the system. It was going to be about building something parallel to it. And to understand how that became possible, you have to rewind, way back, long before Harry, long before palace gates and protocol. Back to the years when Meghan wasn't famous enough to be followed everywhere, but was already learning how power actually works. This is where people miss the plot. Before the Duchess era, there were patterns: invitation-only parties, elite travel, luxury experiences that don't usually land in the lap of a mid-level cable TV actress. The Soho House crowd wasn't just social, it was educational. Behind those velvet ropes were people who didn't chase fame. They funded it, shaped it, used it. Billionaire investors, power brokers, people whose wealth wasn't loud, but whose influence was massive. Ron Burkle's name comes up often in these conversations, not because of scandal, but because of access. Private flights, exclusive gatherings, the kind of introductions that changed trajectories without ever making the news. Meghan learned something crucial in those rooms. power isn't earned by talent alone. It's borrowed through proximity. Every introduction was an opportunity. Every shared table was a listen. She wasn't just attending, she was observing, learning who mattered, who moved things quietly, who could open doors without leaving fingerprints. This is where her invisible network took shape. Not a paper trail, not a company, a web. By the time Harry entered the picture, she wasn't just an actress, she was a strategist who understood how elite ecosystems functioned. Not rich, but always close enough to wealth to live like she was. That distinction matters, because when people ask how the money keeps flowing now, the answer isn't in a single deal or foundation, it's in continuity. Those early relationships didn't vanish, they matured, quietly. Private jets don't just stop being offered. Invitations don't just dry up, they evolve. The yachts, the Mediterranean getaways, the retreats that never show up on Instagram, none of that is random. It's a world where actresses, influencers, financiers, and fixers overlap, where reputation is currency, where visibility has value. Meghan was never the richest person in the room, but she didn't need to be. She just needed to be useful. And that skill didn't disappear when she left the palace. Leaving royal life wasn't exile, it was a rebrand. Same pattern, new packaging. So when Spotify ended, the lifestyle didn't flinch. When Netflix cooled, the travel didn't stop. When Archwell raised eyebrows, the dinners still happened. That's why the whispers won't go away. Because money leaves clues. And Meghan's trail doesn't start with royal allowances or streaming checks. It starts years earlier, with relationships built quietly, strategically, long before the world knew her name. This isn't about one secret benefactor or some dramatic conspiracy. It's more subtle than that. It's a network. People who benefit from keeping her visible because her visibility keeps their circles connected. Hollywood to royalty, activism to influence, celebrity to legitimacy. She's a bridge, and bridges are expensive to maintain. This is why insiders don't talk about profit. They talk about sustainability. The goal was never to be the most successful podcaster or producer. The goal was never to disappear, because in elite circles, relevance is survival. That's the illusion of independence people argue about online, the self-made duchess narrative, the mogul arc. But the math doesn't math. Projects fade, revenue stalls, yet the standard of living stays untouched. That's not luck, that's backing. And backing comes with strings. When your lifestyle depends on benefactors, your freedom depends on their approval. You don't torch bridges you might need later. You don't go fully rogue. You curate carefully. That's why her public image feels so controlled, so polished, so deliberate. Every appearance, every partnership, every headline that's allowed to breathe. It's not about authenticity, it's about alignment. Because while the public debates whether Meghan Markle is profitable, the people behind the scenes already know the answer. Profit was never the point. Presence was. As long as she remains visible, she remains valuable. And as long as she's valuable, the network holds. That bridge she built years ago still stands. So when people ask how she lives a billionaire life on millionaire income, the answer isn't hidden in contracts, it's in contacts. Quiet allies, strategic friends, people who once opened doors and never fully closed them again. Her greatest skill was never acting, it was adaptation. She learned early that power isn't about owning the throne, it's about knowing who pays for the castle. And as long as those calls keep getting answered, the image stays intact. If you're still with me, drop a like. If you're new here, subscribe. And I really want to know what you think, so leave a comment. Do you think this is strategy, coincidence, or something else entirely? Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you.